Neil said to me, Michael, have you been educated? That was somewhere between, I think, one of the songs, somewhere between Frank Sinatra and another song. And I said, yes, obviously it was a joke, obviously as well. But then we were talking about needs, and then I thought, for the first time in my life, I asked myself the question, have I ever been a need? And I thought, yes, I was a need for a while. That was at the moment when I moved from the Netherlands to Germany. I was early 20s, I was not in employment, I was not in further training, and I was also not in education. So yes, I was in a need, and it was in Germany back then, 20 years ago. It was, the unemployment was very high. And my girlfriend back then, she said, we need to go to the Bundesagentur, that's the local labor agency, because they have to know that you're there. And this also has to do with outreach. They didn't know that I was there, but I was not in employment. I was in need, right? And this is one of the things that we want to discuss. And also I thought yesterday evening, if the order of words is the right one, we say mental health, well-being, employment outreach and job readiness. Shouldn't it have been rather been mental health, well-being, outreach, job readiness and then employment? But it's not only about this. We will start with a very lovely panel. And the first speaker will be Dr. Kezban Çelik, sitting on my left. Kezban, it's very nice that you're there. She's a professor at the Department of Sociology at the TED University in Ankara, here in Turkey. And this is the stuff that you teach over there as well. It's about youth, unemployment, work, migration, health and social policy. So you will do an input on the sociology behind this, because it's not only about labor market. And I think for us as public employment service and also private employment agencies that are here today, it's really good to know what is happening to the needs from a social point of view. So you will say something about the determinants, but you always also say something about the expenditure, active labor market policy measures, addressing the public employment services, but also private providers. You will say something about the flexibility of the market, public spending, gender issues, mismatch for young workers, and also the long range of needs, right? We start already with what? I see different ages, 17, I also see 14 until 29. So these you will basically put the basis for the rest of the panelists. And we have really nice speakers today. For example, the third person from my side is Dr. Tibor Bors. And he's a senior policy officer and an associate professor. And you are responsible in Hungary for the youth guarantee. So you're exactly the specialist that we want to have for this topic. We have from Azerbaijan, Toghrul Alakbarov. You're head of the Central Career Branch under the Azerbaijan Public Employment Agency, and you're also a Fulbright scholar. So you bring exactly the knowledge that we need as well. We have Živa Štiglic from Slovenia, and we are in the same field of business. We do the international relations in the public employment services, so we see to it that we learn from each other. And also in this field, and you, what I read also is that you've been working in the private field as well before you came to the public employment service. And last but not least, Petru Blanariu. I think this is the first time since like 15 years that we're on a stage again. We're not getting younger, but you're also from the public employment services in Romania. I think the first time we met was 2005. It's already longer ago. And the angle that you will take today on this panel, that will also be in the outreach, the financial part, because you used the European Social Fund really, really well. You've always done that. And you will give some advantage or some examples also what you can do with money in the outreach and getting to the youngsters. So that will be the scene for this panel. And first of all, Kezban, you have the floor with your input. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And Michael, thank you very much for the introduction and for having me in this panel. And today, I want to say something about the need with a sociological lens. In sociology, I think that before coming to the need issue, we have to look at three important issues. The first one for us, the welfare state regime type is important, and according to the result of the studies, welfare state regime types are associated with the need rate and the need pattern. Welfare state regime type was first developed by the Espen Andersen, and he categorized three regime types: the liberal, the social democratic, and the conservative one. But these classifications or these types has limitations in time to additional welfare state regime types developed. For the need issue, the fourth the regime type is really important, and the fourth one, the Mediterranean or the familistic welfare regime type. The familistic welfare regime type is important because this regime is more strongly family-oriented, with little state intervention and more particularism and clientelism. Because of this reason, we have to look at the welfare state regime type first. Then the second one, the need people are not in education and not in employment. Therefore, two institutional structures are really important: educational institutions and the labor market regulations. And the third one, the cultural variations. Cultural variations are really important because generally in youth studies we have two important perspectives. The first one, transition perspective, and the other one, cultural perspective. Transition, youth studies generally focus on the male man individual, and women's studies can be described as the age-blind perspective. Because of this reason, we have to look at the cultural variations, and this is important for understanding the gender dimension of being a need. Because the transition perspective is focusing focusing on the transition from where to where, generally from the semi-dependency situation to the independent situation. Because of this reason, becoming an adult is closely linked with a man. Because having a job, this transition represents having a job or joining into the labor market, and generally represents the male experiences. But becoming an adult for female is not depend on this transition, especially societies in which women are economically dependent or women are in semi-dependent position. In these societies, marriage becomes a kind of norm, and young women could be an adult by marrying. And okay, these three issues, cultural variations, welfare state regime type, and the institutional structures are important for understanding the situation of need. Okay, the latest report of UNDP's title is Uncertain Times, Unsettled Lives, Shaping Our Future in a Transforming World. It is a bit pessimistic title, but it is real actually. The current world population is more than 8 billion, and the globe is home to largest young generation, and as a result of expansion of education, the globe is home the most educated young people. But there is a problem here. The problem is about the distribution of this young population. Majority of these young people, which means 85% are living in developing or low-income countries. This issue is really important, especially for understanding the rise of mass education and the consequence of this mass education on young people. Okay, majority of the young population are living in the developing countries, and if we remember the main characteristics of the developing countries, generally inequality, insecurity, and vulnerabilities are on the rise, and the majority of the labor market of the developing countries are informal sector, and this issue is also very, very important for understanding the transition from school to employment and becoming an adult. And with all these the changes, or under this situation, the normal is changing. The transition explanation based on normal transition to adulthood, having a normal job, having a normal home, having a normal partner. But nowadays, it is accepted that such linear, normal transition is increasingly becoming more diversified and more individualized as a result of several reasons, and the globalization, neoliberal trends, automation, restructuring of the labor market, all this creates or changing the normal, being a normal adult. And under this condition, we saw the rise of the globally rise of the NEET rates. The concept that NEET, before the NEET concept, from the beginning of the concept, actually, it has negative connotations and negative stigma. The first, the NEET was defined in 1990s in England as the zero status. The zero status is a technical definition and refers to the young people who are in the compulsory education, but they became early school leaver or dropout. Normally, if young people are in compulsory education, the status 1, and the young people in training, status 2, and in employment, status 3. But what does it mean if you are not in both sides? Then the NEET concept developed, but still it has some negative connotations and labeling, because the definition, according to definition, young people are not in the education system, are not in the definition says what young people are not actually. What they are, we don't know. They are not in these two fields. Okay, there are of course several the criticism, but the most important critics is very relevant for the sociology, and this critics is based on the individualization of the responsibility, because young people are not here, are not there, and the do-it-yourself biography or the individualization of the problem. Okay, the concept has some negative labeling still. But, as I said before, the number of NEETs are rising. And there are several determinants or drivers for that. Generally, the determinants or causes are classifying the individual risk factors, intergenerational transmission of inequalities, or the quality of education, public expenditure on education, and passive labor market policies are the mentioned causes for this the rising. Okay, but there are some individual and familistic reasons, and according to the result of the several studies, gender is the majority of countries, approximately 80% of the countries have more the women needs. And gender is very important. And another issue is about marital status, and marital status has a link with the cultural repertoire of the society. And the neat men are more likely be a single, but neat women are generally married and with dependent children. And the age group between the neat among the group, because the group is extended now and includes 15, 29 the 9 ages, and there is a age group differences in the age matters, okay, and the socio-demographic position of the family is another important issue, and generally needs are overrepresented among the low-educated and low-skilled young people. Rural, urban, or geographical disparities is another important issue defining the need rates, and being an immigrant family, and immigrant young people, especially considering Turkey's situation, for example. The Turkey's median age is 33, but the Syrian population's median age is 21. The very young population, and currently, if we remember, the migration pattern is changing, and the main pattern includes refugees, asylum seekers, or unregistered migration pattern. Because of this reason, having an immigrant family or being an immigrant is another important dimension. Okay, the expenditure on education is another important point, and especially considering the mass rising of higher education rates in developing countries, the quality of education becomes an very important issue. The quality of education is important, and the balance between the long education and vocational education is also very important. If the country's focus is on the long education, then we have several the consequences. The mismatch problem between the labor market and education, overqualification issue with us, and simultaneously vocational school, the education and the value assigned to vocational education is becoming degrading, and generally young people don't want to be part of the vocational education. And the quality of education is very important, considering the dropout and early school leaving. And another issue is related with the active labor market policies. But generally, we can divide the active labor market policies into two parts: the main enabling policies and the enforcing policies. And enabling policies for the low skilled young people and enforcing policies for the qualified, the educated young people. Generally, the low-educated, low-skilled young people require the new skill or reskilling, but the educated one has a motivation crisis or motivation problems. And enforcing active labor market policies are really important. Otherwise, the individualization of responsibility is reproducing again. Why? According to the policymakers or employers, there are a lot of jobs, but young people are despising. Because of this reason, the labor market, active labor market policies are really important, but the success of these policies are depending on the target group. If we choose the right target group, then active labor market policies are effective. Another issue, the welfare. Michael, do I have time? 5 minutes, thank you very much. Okay, the welfare state benefits are really important, and especially, this is important, the welfare, the state aids and supports are very useful and necessary for the low-educated, low-skilled group, and the social welfare state benefits are very useful for the young women because the familization of care is really important for the young women, for their participation into the labor market. And when child care expenses are low, then more young women and young moms use it, and they are less likely to become NEET. And defamilialization of care is really important, especially considering Turkey as the situation. Approximately 33% of women are in the labor market, including agricultural work and including informal work. This rate is really, but it requires early child education system and early child care system. And this care must be good and safe. Otherwise, young women do not want to join into the labor market. And being a woman, is really important. Gender matters in NEETs issue. And gender gap and the labor discriminations against females is another structural issue, and insufficient number of publicly accessible early child care and education system. And another issue I want to mention, the diploma inflation. As I mentioned at my first presentation, majority of young people are living in developing countries, and there is not much high and constant demand for the high quality, actually. But the focus of the government or the country is on long education. And then we have the university graduated young people are losing their privileges in time because of the diploma inflation, and it creates mismatch problem between the education system and the labor market. And the different stages of life is another important issue here. The younger needs were school to work transition is the focus is for the school transition for the younger generation, but for the older generation, labor market participation and market conditions are more important. And in sociology, and we say that this is not an individual decision. This is a kind of collective failure. Because of this reason, we have to find collective solutions to this problem. This problem is not young people problems. Okay, really, we know the consequences. Okay, different needs have different needs, and we have three important conclusions. I have maybe. Okay, the skill is really important. Financial resources is another important issue in this subject. And if young people become need, then the policies and implementations become expensive, and the reintegrate of young people once they are need is really difficult. Because of this reason, preventive mechanisms and early warning systems are really important in this unique youth group. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kezban. This was quite some information that you gave us. I would like to pick out three topics and to discuss it with the panel as well, and also with you. So first of all, you also mentioned that the education system has to be in place. There has to be a good education system. If the education system is not good enough, you might produce more needs.
Yes.
That would mean for us in public employment services that we are in the repair business, right?
Yes, sir. Very, very important.
You have to open the microphone.
Yeah, the education institutions and development of education institutions and the balance among the education institutions are really important and matters.
Right. You also mentioned that we should then pick out the right target group if we're in the repair business, right? We have to pick out the right target group. You also mentioned that lots of young women are needs. I would never have I know the statistics, but I would never have expected that. And I always say to the youngsters now, to the younger boys, I say, pay attention in school, because the girls, they are cleverer, they do their homework, they have the better grades, they will get the better jobs in future. But still, most needs are young ladies. How can that be?
Yeah, I think we are looking at the developed countries' the statistics.
Right.
In developing countries, generally young women become invisible easy, and the most important consequence for young women being a need is early marriage. And we couldn't see that.
Do you think marriage is first, or you think there are needs first and then they rescue themselves into marriage?
Yeah, very nice question actually. But first, the culture. Yeah, first the aspiration, Anthony, for young women. If you get married, then they think that they could be an adult and they could be an independent person. Because of this reason, right. Yeah, early school living supports early marriage.
Right.
And early marriage.
Right. Okay, to the rest of the panelists, that would also mean that we as public employment services would need to focus also on women especially. Whom of you has a system in place or in the local offices, persons that focus on women specifically? Tibor?
Yeah, well, we don't, but we don't have special officers for 50 plus, we don't have special officers for low skills, we don't have special officers for middle-aged city dwellers. We have trained case workers who have to deal with different type of clients. So already when we are tackling the implementation of the youth guarantee, from the service lines perspective, it's quite a questionable point that does it make sense to start dividing the public employment service local offices into sub-branches and then developing already workflows for certain type of client groups, or having very highly trained professionals and with the capability to handling the different cases.
It's very interesting. I mean, I'm not only a moderator, I also represent the public employment services, right? And we focus especially on young women, especially on migrant women as well. Not only from the needs perspective, but also because we see that, I mean, we need skilled labor, right? And we see that there's a huge potential, especially in young women, and also women that are married, for example, to upskill them, to prepare them for the labor market. So we do the outreach to these people as well. One more, yes. Yes.
Okay, people make culture. Because of this reason, we can change the culture and we can give new visions to be a young woman in Turkey. I believe in this.
Right. Okay. Well, that's good. One more thing. We heard yesterday as well, and we're discussing needs in a huge range between starting already 14 until 29. You mentioned very often in your presentation school leavers, but if you're already 27, you're not a school leaver anymore, are you?
No, they are not, because of this need group, or we have to focus on the labor market, the facilities, labor market conditions, and barriers for this group.
Right.
Yes, you are not.
Right. Okay. That is a very good starting point for you, Tibor, to start your input, because you want to say something about the huge range as well, and obviously the various approaches we might have as a public employment service dealing with these groups. So we look forward to your input. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for the floor. Just for our host, günaydın. And the conference daveti, içni teşekkürler ederim. If my Turkish pronunciation is good enough, you can tell me in the break or correct me. Okay, I just prepared a couple of slides. So the first 2-3 slides just to capturing the situational awareness. What is the current situation in the Hungarian labor market concerning the young needs and the youth unemployment? The second part of the presentation going to cover some issues with the new challenges, what we called within the European Union the implementation of the reinforced use guarantee, which has implication to the changes of the customers, the type of the customers, because the age grows up to the age limit of 30. As you very clearly pointed out, then we are tackling young adults and not teenagers. There is very little evidence in the implementation guidelines at the European level how to do this. So member states have to be very active on this and creative on this. And in the last part of the presentation, I want to showcase very quickly in a nutshell what we are planning to do or what we are actually doing since October, since we have started the implementation of the new phase. Okay, just a very few statistics. So Hungary is a landlocked country, and very often when we are referring to our labor market or educational data sets, either we are comparing ourselves with the European Union, the 27 member states, many of you are in the room, but for the rest of the globe, it's only a tiny peninsula. On the other hand, we are also comparing our data set with the V4 countries, which is namely Poland, Slovakia, Czech Republic and Hungary. So what is very clear in this chart, and I think it also resonates to the yesterday ILO and ETF presentations in the morning, that when the European Union, the 27 and used to be 28 member states, has started the implementation of the youth guarantee in 2013, so more than a decade ago, then the youth unemployment rate, but also the NEET rate was very high. And it was also mentioned very clearly that the NEET rate is a tricky statistical indicator because it's a UK homegrown indicator. So it's a British phenomena, which was basically lend-leased by the European Commission and was given to the European member states to use it. So we used our time really to learn what actually the NEET rate means and what the composite indicators of the NEET rate could be. And at the same time, do not forget about the youth unemployment rate, which is still very interesting, especially if you take a look at on the very different nature of the youth unemployment rate of those who were originally covered with the European Youth Guarantee and those who are older, so from 25 up to 30. Two very different groups, also from the labor market perspectives. Now we have to handle them under one measure. So when we started, the NEET rate was quite high in the region, and as you are able to read from the chart, even the names of the countries are in Hungarian, but you can very clearly see that the NEET rate declined drastically in the last 10 years. It also has implication on the budget, but it also has implication on the target group, which makes the implementation for the next decades very tricky. The second indicator, which is probably important to use, this is the ESL indicator, which is rarely used by public employment services, but it's an essential part of the education and training report of the European Commission. So whenever we are discussing issues with the ministries of education, this is a target indicator. And in the first slide, what you notice that Hungary is going quite well in the NEET rate. So like now, the Hungarian NEET rate is around the German NEET rate, so quite low or in the middle of the European Union. Even in the OECD ranking, it's quite okay. But if you take the early school leaving indicator, then with Romania, with Turkey, with some other countries, we are on the top. So it's now around 12%, which means that basically the education system, every single academic year, creating the new target group, the new customers group for the public employment service. I'm just making footnote in my presentation because we have very limited time, but it's a tricky question that when we are talking about the full-scale implementation of the youth guarantee as a policy initiative, where is the role of the educational authorities, or are we keeping our decision, what the European PES network made in 2013, that the public employment services should be responsible for the full implementation of the youth guarantee, including prevention, including handling dropout and things like that. So like just mentioning the second chance education. In most of the cases, the second chance education is not part of the core business of public employment services. It's vary from country to country, of course. And the third one is about the registration data set of the Hungarian Employment Agency. Here what you can very clearly see, also a very robust decline in the number of young clients in our registry. So in one hand, this is a good news, because half of those who were registered 10 years ago already hopefully in the labor market. And on the other hand, when you are responsible for implementation of measures, you already have a headache, because it also means that you have less clients, but you still have to meet with your indicators. Okay, so then what are the key points? What can be the key challenges for us in the current phase, which will be like, again, almost 10 years up to 2030? So the target group, as we already noted, had been broadened. It also means that now, at the moment, we are mixing up teenagers from the age of 15, 16 with young adults, and they have completely different type of questions and problems. Upskilling the local officers to deal with these very different needs is going to be definitely a methodological challenge for Hungary, but I assume for many countries who are sitting in this room this morning. The second point is that as we are going further and the need rate is declining in countries, it also means that those who remains are much harder to place. So then we are facing with clients who's having multiple barriers. So the success is not going to be as easy as it used to be in the last, or the first decade of the youth guarantee. This, I think, also needs some attention. The second point is how to strengthen the link with the training opportunities of young people. In the case of the Hungarian Public Employment Service, we are in a situation where we are not responsible for training. So like many other agencies, we don't have our own training, in-house training capacities. It means a cross-cutting, a cross-policy development with the educational authorities, and educational authorities themselves are also divided, discussing something with the vocational education management, discussing something with the public education, and so on, second chance education, are very different in their nature. So many overcoming discussion in front of us. And then the last point is what I want to highlight here, how to develop this national methodology to support our almost 200 local offices. So we have like 2,000 frontliners in Hungary. Like 700 will be involved in the implementation or are already involved in the implementation on the reinforced youth guarantee. So what is really the key point of all of these policy debates and developments, or the implementation of different type of labor market measures? What is the capability to empower the local officers to be able to handle these challenges what the clients are bringing into the offices, if they would approach us? For that point, I think also what is the first title of this morning panel discussion, the outreaching is definitely an issue. There are lucky countries where there are national data sets about the dropout students, like Denmark, but in most of the cases, like was mentioned from Croatia, the same in Hungary, we do not have this national database. So actually how to build really a communication strategies through the social media where we are able to reach these young people. That's definitely going to be a challenge during the implementation. And for this, at the moment, we are deploying a new service model, where the first angle of the new service model is how to reinforce the outreaching activities. Sorry about this very statistical nomenclature here, the NEETs 4 level. So basically at the micro-regional level, as I said, we have almost like 200 local offices. So whenever we are talking about NEET outreach, obviously social media is a powerful tool, but even more powerful if the local neighborhood knows that the employment agency is there, and then they can approach this agency and the local officers. That's the first step. The second step, dedicating mentors, case officers, whose should be, and then back to one of your questions, should be only responsible for the youth under the age of 30. There are pros and cons, it is a good or a bad solution. I'm not going into details with that. And here we also check many international benchmarks, for example, what the Bundesagentur für Arbeit has been doing with the U25 clients. So we do hope that each of these mentors could have no more than 90 active clients. And then here I also want to make a methodological distinction between the role of the case officers, mentors, and then the second service line, what we call employment or career counselors. During these type of meetings, we are very frequently mixing up these words, advisor, counselor, mentor, job coach, whatever. But from the professional point, from the pedagogical point of view, there are very strong distinction between different type of roles. So what are the roles of a case officer in the local office, and what's the role of the employment or career counselors providing individual case management support or longer term group sessions for these clients. And here I'm just closing my presentation with a couple of key discussion points, which are interesting one in Hungary, but probably are also interesting for many of you in this room. So the first question is, or first point is, how to reach out the needs. This is also homework for all of the European member states dedicated by the European Commission. Easy to say, hard to implement. Then you have to reach out all of the needs, but if there is no national database on the ESL, then how to do this? The second question is how to develop national use guidance or use guarantee service protocols and ensure the quality. So quality management is obviously one important point from the head office perspective of any public employment service. And the last point is how to effectively combine the active labor market measures with labor market services. So I think very frequently, because of the budgetary pressure, we are overlooking the power of labor market services. What I mean is that sometimes labor market services themselves are really powerful tool and could serve the placement of young people. But in the same time, very often, we are packing the labor market services with active measures. So how to find a balance between labor market services and active measures? Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much for this interesting presentation. We can keep on the slides for a moment, because these are also the key discussion points, as you said. I think the final point, the effective combination of labor market services and active labor market policy measures, I think we can discuss when we hear the next three presentations on also how to do this. But Tibor, you also mentioned, and this is the second point. You said, this is what we're discussing, needs have disengaged from all systems, right? So if you don't have a national system or database, how to do the reach out, because you don't know how to find that. My first question to you, and if there's already questions from the audience, by the way, also to Kezban, you can raise your hand, and I hope that somebody will walk past with a microphone. And otherwise, if there are no questions yet, I see there already one in the middle. Yes, right. But my first question would be, so with the labor market, the system, the national database, would you say this for all the needs, or for especially the younger ones that just dropped out of school, but also the later ones, or do you see it as a group as a whole?
Yeah, well, there are obviously different databases when we are tackling the early school leavers under the age of 24, and the National Education Authority has this data. But then the question is how the Public Employment Service is capable to cooperate with the educational authorities. So the devil is always in the details in implementing different type of policies, because, as I said, it's easy to draft something, adding bullet points in papers, but then the reality of the implementation means a cross-cutting policy development in an individual country level. And in some countries, the culture of cross-cutting implementation between ministries, between agencies, is very much developed. In other countries, this is underdeveloped. So it's itself, I think, is an implementation challenge.
Okay, thank you. Toghrul?
My question to Tibor is about the social media. So as you mentioned, like needs, sometimes they're really far off any kind of communication. My question is, what kind of social media do you use and how do you use it? Like, do you use Instagram, Facebook, and what kind of particular tools do you use in order to reach them out? Thank you.
Yeah, well, in the first phase, in the last 10 years, we were not too active. So it was mainly Facebook, but forgive us, still Facebook is the most popular tool in Hungary. But now, as we are rolling into the new phase, the new development, our plans are to using the other type of tools as well, whatever are now popular among the different age group of the young people.
Right. I had a question, yes. I think it's Accenture, no? WCC, right.
Hi, Ilias Hazui speaking, from WCC Group from the Netherlands. So I have two questions for Dr. Kezban. The first one is about active labor market policies. You say that they are important to address the challenges for placing needs in the labor market, but still they may not benefit young populations who are exposed to become needs. So for me, what do you exactly mean by this? I mean, you say that it's also about the right target group. So defining, okay, which are the right target groups to define and to address, but what defines actually a right target group and a wrong target group? That's the first question. And yeah, of course, also regarding the previous one about, okay, what do you mean exactly about active labor market policies that do not really can benefit the needs? So that's something also I want to hear your opinion about. And the third question, maybe a second question, is about the diploma inflation, which is for me is quite a new concept. So maybe if you can bring a little bit of light on that. And you say that diploma inflation has an impact on the mismatch between the labor market, between the, let's say, the needs profiles and the labor market. So what do you mean exactly by that? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. First, your first question, if I understood right, is about active labor market policies and the right target group choice. Okay, there are several policies in active labor market perspective, but niche people, mainly to different needs have different needs. The enabling policies for the unskilled young people, they need skill or reskilling policies. The target group for the enabling labor market policies are low educated, low skilled young people, and with these policies they can find a job in the labor market according to their skills. But we have another group, the older young group. This young group, in Turkey, for example, educated young people are unemployed, and generally, these young people have motivation crisis because there are several jobs in the labor market, but these jobs are not good for their qualifications. Because of this reason, they need enforcing, counseling, and motivation active labor market policies. And the second one. Oh, okay. Actually, diploma inflation is not a new concept, but the meaning is university diploma or long education had several privileges in the past, but with the rise of mass higher education policies, then diploma, university diploma, is started to lose its privileges. It's about, and in Turkey we have the similar problem, but we have to look at the labor market conditions, whether labor market requires highly qualified labor force or not. Thank you.
One final comment. Tibor, I asked if you diversify between the youngest and the older ones by setting up a system or not. In Germany, it's like that the educational system is, they have by law have to report any dropouts that there are so that we can do the outreach. Just food for thought if you don't have such a law in place. Right, yes, go ahead.
I also want to add something, because this will not be covered in my presentation, about the issue of exchanging databases with the Ministry of Education. Also using the ESF money, we are currently implementing another project. We, the PES, we are the main beneficiary, but we have partners, the Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Labor, also some other institutions under the Ministry of Education, and in this project, when we finalize, in fact, this project, we'll have the opportunity to exchange databases with those who come from the secondary education, from the university level, so they will give us the information. In fact, they will upload the information in the database, and we'll be able to exchange it also with our information on the unemployed, also with the labor inspection in Romania, where they keep the records of the work contracts. So we'll be able finally to track, to identify and to track what it is happening with young people, if they finish the education, if they drop out also the school. So we'll be able to have all this type of information. Of course, it was quite difficult to be able to do that, but it was agreed to have a protocol between the Ministry of Labor and the Ministry of Education, supported by the PES. So this way we'll be able to have all this information available. Thank you.
Thank you, Petru. So that is the basis, so to say, to start the outreach. And there we are already with the perfect balance between active labor market policy measures and doing the service providers. Toghrul, the floor is yours. We look forward to see what you do, how you go about it in Azerbaijan.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum and good morning. I understand that when you are in a room like this after such a tasty breakfast, and have a good, probably active or passive night, at least sleeping, probably it's not easy to concentrate on what these guys are speaking. That's why I would like to ask you to applaud to yourself being active, please. Can you have a round of applause to yourself? At least to yourself. That you are still here, you are not outside. You are inside and you are doing your best in order to understand and getting the best. So my name is Toghrul and I'm representing Azerbaijan's Public Employment Agency, and I would have just 10 minutes. I have my stopwatch here. So 10-minute presentation about what we have done in Azerbaijan in order to enhance the capacity of the career coaches. Counselors, consultants, who works particularly with needs. Okay? So before starting, I would like to give you a little bit information about our agency and the branch I'm representing. So the branch we have is a central career branch. So in fact, we have established it just 1.5 years ago, and it's a first career related organization in Azerbaijan. So my presentation will be interesting, particularly for the country's representatives who have the same challenges. And that's why I'm in the end of the presentation, during the dinner, I would love to have the conversation. It's something I can share. So it was established in March 2022, and it's the first official career-oriented state entity. That's why we have many other governmental entities are also approaching us in order to ask their questions, because we are the pioneers in these fields. That's why we make a lot of mistakes. And it's good because we learn a lot. And our main aim is to raise awareness about career guidance in Azerbaijan, as well as enhancing quality and accessibility of career planning services, so giving more services. Second is about speaking about career awareness, like career guidance. So dear parents, dear students, there is career guidance. So maybe for some countries it's something new that many people know about career guidance, but in our country we are in type of transition period when we speak more about career guidance notion than we do career guidance itself. Because first they need to have the awareness about career guidance in order for them to reach you out, as well as providing career counseling services to several types of target audience, as well as parents, students, children, and of course NEETs. And as well as we also work with service providers as career counselors. So when we were preparing for my presentation, we spoke with my team about what kind of problems do we have with NEETs. And maybe you could also find the same problems you have. First of all is mismatching, our global problem. Mismatching between the skills and the demands of labor market, as well as mismatching of their wishes and demands of the career labor market. Second is limited resources. People don't have enough resources, or they think they don't have enough resources. Confidence issues. So these people, because of many different problems, they think that they cannot do this. They cannot get the job. They cannot make the interview successful. They cannot prepare their CV, as well as lack of motivation. They think like, it will not work. I mean, why do I need it? That's why. In order to be successful, we kind of try to solve these problems parallelly, not even by one wire. And social isolation is something like, particularly people like this vulnerable background, they are kind of isolated from the whole society. That's why our aim is also to kind of get them back to the active society. So what we do? So we have my presentation will be about two parts, about what we do and what we have done, and what we also parallel do, kind of preventing measures. So our project is, first of all, is Allo Career. So I remember it was my second or third month in my current job, and it was COVID-19. And during COVID-19, I know we all had a big brainstorming sessions. What can we do when we cannot reach our citizen? And my idea was like to establish the first online career counseling service. The idea was perfect, but the problem was like I didn't have any career counselors, and we haven't done any online projects so far. And what we did, we started, so we had we reach out to the people that we need career counselors. I mean, people who would like to be career counselors, because in Azerbaijan we don't have any education provider who prepare a career counselor. So we all did by our team. And then we have the training, then we had like a test period, and then we had 8 career counselors who started working online. And we were using Zoom, and it works perfectly. And it was only just online consultations. And just imagine, after each consultation, we were sending the form where they were rating us, and our satisfaction rate is 98%. So 98% of all people who filled out this form, they are really happy with us. I think it's kind of a good result. And which kind of problem we were facing during this Allo Career is mismatching and limited resources. Second is Job Club. Job Club is like, it's not something we invented, it's not a rocket science. But when we heard first time about the Job Club, we thought like, okay, let's change it a little bit. And what we did,
Every month we have a new cohort, new wave of job club. If you haven't heard about job club, is the international phenomenon where the unemployed or job seekers, they come together, they get their employability skills trainings, as well as they're starting just looking for a job. So our results, and approximately 26% of all people who participate in our trainings, they didn't have any work experience, previous work experience. And results is 45% of all participants, they got their job or they get their internship. Like, it's a good result as well. And advantage is like, it's not, we didn't limit with just having the training. The problem with the training, like even people sitting here, they could be not satisfied with the current trainings because training is not a tool. I mean, it's not the only tool in order to get the job or the result. When you have a training, you need to have also follow-up. You need to have also mentorship in order to be successful. And what kind of problems we solve with this is about confidence issues, lack of motivation, and social isolation. So, you see this poster. I didn't put the poster just by chance. Maybe you have heard about the very famous movie by Arnold Schwarzenegger. It was the Universal Soldier. And I haven't forgot about my topic. So, when we speak about our career counselors, we look at them as the universal soldiers. Because if you will just give the career like advice, it will not work. That's why the first is culture eats strategy for breakfast. I love this quote. Because if you would like to implement anything from the international experience and you will not consider the culture, it will not work. That's why what we did, we made a big research about what people do outside of Azerbaijan, but we also, first of all, we don't forget about our cultures. First of all, we started when we had our first career counselors, or if we they have the representatives who would like to develop their career counselors. First of all, it's like we don't have to invent the wheel. The best thing is like getting the international certification. So we had the international certification, but international certification is about international experience. If any of you got this NCDA certification like CCSP, CSP, GCDF, this certification, they are about international experience, but they don't keep in mind your cultural background. That's why we started working with our cultural factors, and we started to localize our experiences. And then it started to work. Second is cross-skilling. What does it mean? In this case, we mean that our career counselors, they started working as trainers. So within the job club, our career counselors starting delivering the trainings. But we know that trainer is different from the counselor. That's why they had the TOT, training of trainers, in order to understand what is the difference. Second, and we started doing it online as well. Like, as if you have ever delivered anything online, or if you have ever participated in any thousands of these boring webinars when you try just to not to sleep, you can understand how much delivering the online training is important. And that's why we starting teaching them how to deliver online trainings effectively in order people to get the result in the end. Second is mentorship. I would say that one of the keys of our success in Azerbaijan is that our counselors, they are also mentors. So the council process doesn't finish with the end of the Zoom call. But, for example, in the Job Club and Allo Career, we also work with them, like in Allo Career, in the Job Club, we work with them for 3 months. So for 3 months, we follow up. So we work with them individually, not even in the group. Individually, in order to understand where they are and what kind of problems. Because just giving the information, not the skill, it's not enough, because they don't know how to use it. And if they have any tackle in the first tackle, they can just like give up. That's why I would say that mentorship skill is it's the #1 skill that you could have in your career counselors, because just giving the information is not enough. You should be the right sample. And giving the right path, it's very important. As well as we also starting helping our students and the counselors to work with the vulnerable groups. It's very important, because as you know, Azerbaijan, we had thanks God, we solved our problems in Karabakh, and still we had very types of vulnerable groups. Like, it could be like orphans, it could be the veterans, it could be like the other vulnerable groups. And our career counselors, they also were taught how to work with this diverse population. 1 minute, yes, 1 minute. Clicker, help me. Yes. So as well as what we also work. We have established a council of university career centers. Council. So we understand we don't have enough resources. That's why, in order to reach out to students, we don't work with students. We work with career counselors of the universities. And we understood that raising capacity of the career centers at universities is the best result, rather than trying to reach out to all the universities. Second is working with the parents. We understand that establishing a parent network in the regions will help us to be more visible. For example, parents are the stakeholders, are influencers in the regions, as we call it. So working with the regional influencers, parents, teachers, helped us a lot. Training of career counselors. We have hundreds of career counselors in Azerbaijan who represent our agency or other agencies, and we understood that in helping even other career counselors will raise awareness and raise the quality of our services, as well as local and international cooperation. So again, I am Toghrul, I am representing Azerbaijan Public Employment Agency. If you have anything to share, anything to ask or teach us, we are ready here and we are ready to learn. That's why, thank you for your attention. You can applaud now.
10 minutes, right? Yes, thank you so much. You said a lot of things on what you do. Can you say also something about the key outputs, what it has brought? You said a lot of things you started doing since 2019. That means that you have now 4 years of experience. What are so the key outcomes, please?
Key outcomes I can share from perspective of the citizen and share from perspective of the career counselors. What I understood is the main thing is to having the right people in the right place. If you have a people who don't enjoy the process of helping people, or if you have just technical people on the top of the pyramid who don't have the right vision, it will not work. So, I mean, maybe it could be heard as populistic, but the first and main thing is having the right people in the right place. When you have the right people in the right place, it works. Second is don't be afraid of things you haven't done before, because what we are doing in Azerbaijan as our agency, we don't have any benchmark. Like our branch in Azerbaijan, Central Career Branch, is not a copy-paste, because we are doing policy making, we are doing practice, and we are doing research. Normally, these kind of services could be divided, but we are doing all the things. And again, having right people. Second, being courageous. Like if you're afraid, if you are in the front of the train and you're locomotive, you don't have to be afraid, because many things depend on you. And the third thing is like really what I feel like, if you had a good example and if you are ready to share, many other governmental entities will come to you and ask for your help. So in this case, I think like again, right people, having right skills and being a right example. What I am saying, for example, this could be not relevant, for example, for Belgium or for Germany, because you have passed it like maybe decades ago. But for maybe Central Asia, maybe for Africa, Middle East, maybe for Southeast Europe, even maybe some for other countries, there are stages we need to pass. And particularly if our public employment agency lacks career guidance services, or we are doing something which can should be done like 20 years ago, it means that our people will feel it. So main punch, arm, hand, it could be career guidance services. And when your career guidance services are good enough, are strong enough, and you have different services that help you to reach out all kind of people even in the regions, it will give the result after a while.
Go ahead, yeah.
Hi, I have a comment, not a question, because I'm not going to cover that in my presentation. Actually, at Employment Service of Slovenia, under our youth guarantee, we have trained our counselors for 7 years to work specifically with NEETs and youth. And if it would be interesting for you, we'll be really happy to provide you with some good practices that you can, of course, culturally adopt.
We would love to learn them. We would love to learn, definitely.
There is one more thing I would like to raise. We can start discussion already now, but we still have 2 inputs to come, and also perhaps with the audience. The other day I read, I think it was on the CEDEFOP website, that slow economic development leads to low demand for young workers who are often considered lacking in necessary skills. And when I read your presentations, the word skills was never mentioned anywhere, but even the younger NEETs, they have skills, and also the older NEETs until 29, they also have skills. So perhaps you could say something, all the panelists, whomever you want, how do you raise these skills, or how do you make them transparent and see what they can already do? And perhaps there's also somebody from the audience that might want to say something about possibilities of making such skills transparent. I mean, they can be educational skills, they can be generical skills, different kind of skills, but everybody can do something.
I can start. So, in our opinion, the skill is the main currency in the labor market. I haven't mentioned it, but I mean it. And what we do first is like raising awareness about this, because in Azerbaijan, I really like Dr. Kezban word about diploma inflation, because diploma is is just paper. It doesn't mean a lot now, but what means a lot is skills. That's why first is awareness raising that, as we call it, is we call that the rules of the game has changed. We call it the same. Oyunun kayıtları değişti. The rule have changed. And that's why what we know now is like, first of all the people, they need to know about the things that rules have changed, and the main thing now is skill. That's why we work particularly with universities. We work particularly with the schools in order to kind of help them to implement and add to their lessons. For example, career guidance. In Azerbaijan, we have a few universities with career guidance lessons. That's why, first of all, again, we are all in the different stages of the evolution, let's say, in terms of the labor market. In our stage, now we are in the stage of the empowerment and raising awareness. That's why now we speak about this, as well as we teach career counselors at the universities, university career centers, about the skills that they can teach their students.
At Public Employment Service of Slovenia, we are very passionate about skills, especially on the topics of upskilling and reskilling, because the skills that are important now may not be so much important in the future. This is why we are developing a special platform where we are going to anticipate the skills of today, the skills of short-term tomorrow, and the skills of long-term tomorrow. And I think this is crucial for preventing the NEET status, because if we get young people the right skills not only for today but also for tomorrow, they will not become NEETs, or they will be NEETs for a shorter time. So yes, maybe this would be, I don't want to spoil my presentation, and I have some really good inputs for panel 6, so no spoilers.
Then the floor is yours immediately, or Petru, would you like to add something to that?
Yes, I also like to add something related to skills, what is happening in the Romanian past. In fact, from what we see, it's very important the level of education, because if we look at university, those who graduate the university, their rate of success is very high, because if they come to us and they register with us, in a very short period of time they are successful and they can find easily a job. It's another discussion if their job is related to their education or not, but normally they easily find a job. It's more difficult, of course, with those with low skills or no skills, and for them we have training programs for skilling and upskilling. We, as you might know, in Romania we have our own network of training centers, so we organize and we also deliver the training courses. So many of our trainees are young people, and in most of the cases, those who attend training courses are also hired when they finalize the courses. Another issue that I would like to mention is also, if we speak about young people, is the lack of experience. Of course, we are aware that sometimes employers are not very interested to hire young persons due to their lack of experience. But for that, we have specific measures, specific programs in order to encourage the employers to hire young people. We have, for example, wage subsidies that we give for 1 year to the employers in order to hire young people. So this is, in our opinion, a good measure because it's an incentive for the employers to hire them, and of course most of them are kept in the companies when the subsidies are finished.
All right. Thank you, Petru. I think, Živa, the floor is yours now. You also wanted to say something about the mental health in terms of outreach. One more comment from Nicole. I think we will overdraw for 5 to maximum 10 minutes because we also started 10 minutes later. But you already know that the coffee... Right.
Hi, thank you very much. Thank you for all the organizers for organizing this very important and very interesting conference. I think it's clear by now that we're very different countries in terms of size, in terms of numbers, but every input, every good practice is such a great source of inspiration and a great learning opportunity. So I'm really happy that I'm able to be here and learn from you. And I'm also very grateful for the organizers to organize it here in Antalya because let me say that a swim before the breakfast really sets the tone of the day. So dear colleagues, I really recommend going to the sea. Even if it's for 5 minutes, the water is perfect. Perfect. Now let me start. I'm going to present actually a good practice from the Public Employment Service of Slovenia. And this good practice, I think, really answers the angles of mental health, job readiness, learnability that we are going to discuss and are discussing in this panel. So this is the program PUM-O. PUM-O is a program for young adults who are from age from 15 to 29 and are either not employed or are not in education or are at risk of dropping out of the education and are facing more difficulties into entering the labor market as other vulnerable groups and are also, in our experience, usually socially excluded and living below the poverty line. These are young people that are facing a lot of very difficult situations that also intertwine and accumulate, such as problems at school, problems at home, living in not really decent conditions, problems in relationships with peers, mental health issue, general health issue. And that is why, as my colleagues have mentioned before, our experience is that these young adults are usually lacking self-confidence, are usually apathetic and unmotivated. So this is the working group that we are working with. So what is the purpose? The main purpose of this program is, of course, to empower these young people, our participants, to either re-enter the educational system or enter the labor market. So this is like the main umbrella purpose. And for the goals, of course, the main goal is why we are also here, to help these young people come back to the educational system or go back to the labor market or training. But I know that we are all many times bound by numbers and statistics, and we have to do the ticks and the boxes. But this program, I'm a fan, is actually about so much more, because we are working with very vulnerable young people here. So of course we want to help them re-enter the labor market or the educational system, but it's not the only goal of this program. We are here to help them form a professional identity, self-initiative, and entrepreneurship. We are here to equip them with competencies and skills, not only to re-enter the labor market, but also skills for inclusion, skills for going back to the society, skills for communicating with their peers, skills for empowering them to become a part of the society again. And what is also really important for us is to help them, maybe for the first time, create their professional and personal identity, what their passions are, what are they interested in, what are they good at, because they didn't have it before. So yes, the main goal and the purpose is to enter the labor market or the educational system, but this program is about so much more. How does it look like? We have 12 contractors that are carrying out this program throughout the Slovenia, and each participant can be a part of the program for 10 months. Each participant gets a mentor, a PUM-O mentor, and together they create an individual plan for these 10 months. But what I would really like to point out are the group activities. Every mentor in the PUM-O program creates, sets up group activities according to the dynamics and the interests of the group. And not even knowing, every day taking part in these group activities, these participants are actually gathering really important skills for them. For example, project management, group work, time management, conflict resolution, assertive communication, self-initiative, creativity, and so much more. The professional team of the program consists of the PUM-O counselor and the counselor of the Employment Service of Slovenia. And if necessary, the professional team is also joined by the other stakeholders from the local environment of each participant, such as teachers, doctors, social workers, etc. So, to sum up the scene, this individual, this participant, who was socially excluded before, comes to the program every day, participates in the group activities every day, has to solve issues coming up with the group activities every day, is in contact with his or her peers every day, and is supervised by the professional team every day. So, of course, this program is very successful. This program is actually working and has like a dual effect, dual perspective. So on one hand, we are solving a hardships of a concrete person who was excluded from the society, helping him or her to solve his or her problems. And on the other hand, by empowering these individuals to re-enter the labor market or to re-enter the educational system, we are also helping their future. We're also making a more prosperous future for them. I'm not going to focus so much on the numbers. I prefer to focus on the lessons learned. On the 1st of July, a PUM-O Plus program has started. It's the same program as PUM-O, but all the lessons that we learned in 5.5 years of carrying out PUM-O, we have integrated in the PUM-O Plus program, which are, firstly, the age before, for the participants, the maximum age was 26 and is now 29 because we have also followed the definition of the European Commission. Secondly, the same thing remains that each participant can be in the program for 10 months maximum, but now in PUM-O Plus, each participant can join more than once. Because in the first period, we realized that some need more than 10 months. Third, that is very, very important, is that we realized that we have to do more to reach the invisible needs. The invisible needs are the needs that are not registered by us and are usually the ones that need us most. So how are we doing that in the PUM-O Plus program now? Is that we are
engaging the local environment so much more. We're working with the NGOs more. We're working with the schools more. We're working with the social centers more. We are working with the mental health providers more in the local sphere. We're working with the doctors more, so we can really reach those who need us most. Another thing that has changed is that we have started planning more planned contacts with the employers to create opportunities, but not only that, but to help these young people realize what competencies are actually needed for jobs they want to work in, what skills are needed, what are the jobs that are needed now, what are the jobs for the future. Another thing that is very important that we have learned, and we are putting so much more effort now, is training. We are doing so much more training of the PUM-O counselors and of the Employment Service of Slovenia counselors. So there is also one thing that I can't remember, but maybe I'm going to tell you in the panel 6. So this is a quick overview of the PUM-O Plus. We have decided to share one practice with you, not so much about the general situation in Slovenia, but I am really happy that I was able to present this and looking forward to the debate. Thank you so much.
This is really great because we are here. This is the strong suit of the WAPES network, that we bring together good ideas, good projects of which other countries and other public employment services can benefit. I was thinking now, because of what you said in the PUM-O project, that they learn project management, team working. That seems to be relatively high ranking for somebody that drops out of school, doesn't want to have anything to do with the education system. And you also said because the mental health mindset might also be not thinking positively about themselves at that moment. And then you start with something like project management, but it seems to work, right?
Yeah, well, the group projects are not maybe like projects that we have at work. There are projects, I don't know, like let's cook something. And then, someone is the project manager of the cooking a meal that day, and that is a revolution for them. So they have to decide within a group what they're going to cook. They have to manage the time, they have to resolve the conflicts, they have to prepare things. So what is really great about this program is that they're gaining the skills and the competencies not even knowing. They're gaining not only the skills to enter the labor market, but the skills for everyday life. So these group projects are really different from like preparing meals, preparing shows, preparing, I don't know, stuff for the local environment. But someone is always the manager of the project. They're always a team. So, there is a lot of skills that you can gain like this, because you have to decide, someone has to be the leader, self-initiative is building here. So if we would present it like we're gonna manage projects here, they would be like no thank you. But if it's like a place that it's a safe environment with their peers, they can learn stuff, they can do stuff that are fun for them, but it's also supervised and very much intentional, then I think this is like a great way to re-enter the society again.
Right. Kezban said gender also plays a large role. Do you focus on that as well in your projects? Is gender gap a topic?
No, in Slovenia, no. In Slovenia, we don't have a big difference between men and women in NEETs, and we also do not have counselors that are focused on one gender. We have specialized counselors for the long-term unemployed, for the youth, etc., but gender does not play a role here.
All right, thank you. So cooking was one of your elements. Let's see what Petru has cooked up for us in Romania with the support of the European Social Fund. The final input. Thank you very much for being here.
First of all, I would like to thank to our Turkish and Azerbaijani colleagues and friends for organizing this event, for making it possible. I know how difficult it is to organize such big events, because we also organized some events in Romania. I'd also like to thank Michael for reminding me of how old I am, because he mentioned that we met first time probably about 20 years ago, so we have now gray hair. Also, I'd like to say that Antalya is a good location. You picked up the right place for this meeting. I've traveled several times. I've been in Turkey for different events, but mostly in Istanbul. For me, it's the first time in Antalya, and now I have a good image about the city, about the location. We have many Romanian tourists coming here for summer, and also I remember our football teams come here for winter break for training. So it's an interesting place to visit, and for sure I will come back. Now starting with my presentation. Yes, I mentioned already, we in the Romanian PES, we have used a lot the ESF money. So this is the European Social Fund, fund of the European Union. So we used a lot of funds in order to increase our administrative capacity under the programming period that will end this year. So in total, we have implemented around 19 projects with a total budget of about 1.2 billion euros. And we expect to have finally an absorption rate of more than 90%. Out of these projects, 7 projects were dedicated to young needs. First of all, we had a project that was intended to help us to register. So, in fact, dedicated to outreach activities, and I will focus more on that project. And we also have 6 national scheme projects that funded the measures that we implemented for the young needs, because we have different types of measures for them. So the idea was, with the first project, to register them, to outreach, to register them with the PES, and this way to have the target group for the other 6 projects that were just meant to fund the specific measures that we can provide to the young needs. So I will focus on this project that was called INTESPO. We were the main beneficiary of the project with the PES, but we had another 3 very important partners. The first partner was the National Agency for Payments and Social Inspection. So this is the social assistance institution. We had the Ministry of National Education and also the Ministry of Labor and Social Solidarity. Of course, that these are the main stakeholders when we speak about the identification of the needs. Of course, there are many others as well, but these are very important, and we are aware that sometimes in different countries, the cooperation between these institutions to bring them on the same table is somehow difficult. So having such a project, it was like a trigger, like an incentive to strengthen the cooperation between these partners. The main purpose of the project was to increase the number of inactive young needs registered with the PES in order to be able to provide them different measures, different services. The initial target group was to reach at least 200,000 inactive young needs. and out of this to have at least 170,000 profiled by the PES and to be registered and profiled by the PES. The implementation period of the project was from September 2017 to March 22. In fact, the real activity started in 2018 because we need to have some preparation activities, and the total budget was about 47.4 million euros. The activities that were implemented started with the collection of local data. So it was very important to be able to identify the data available, to collect this data. For example, the social assistance institutions from the national and county level contributed with the data on persons on child raising leave, or those who receive different subsidies or social assistance benefits. The Ministry of National Education and the county school inspectorates, of course, provided data on the persons who were involved in schools. They also involved the school counselors and mediators who are aware about the young people that are at risk of dropping out. And we in the county, in the national and in the county agencies for employment, we had to contact and to reach out other institutions that can provide data, like the local governments, county councils, other social assistance institutions, also health insurance offices, so involving also the family doctors. Then we established some support networks at county and local level. We agree that it's very good to have a coordination from the national level, but the real things happen at county and local level. So we had to strengthen the cooperation at county and local level. So we wanted to revitalize the PES support networks, including local public authorities. We also established and concluded partnerships with various stakeholders. We also wanted to develop local volunteering, so those who wanted to become volunteer and to support us. We also established local interventions teams that were located at the level of the community, usually at county level. And these teams included several experts, of course, employment experts from our institution, but also social workers. These usually belong to the city halls, and also the school counselors. So the main purpose of this local intervention teams were to contact young NEETs and to attract them, to convince them to come and to register with the PES, to fill the young person's profile with relevant information on family and personal background, which is very important from what we have seen in the previous presentations. To maintain the contact with the young NEETs during their involvement in the support programs. Also to be involved in the provision of support and accompanying measures to facilitate access and to participate of young NEETs in education, training, or entrepreneurship measures. So a local intervention team included finally 7 experts from the PES, 2 internal and 5 external. So in this project we had the opportunity to hire some additional staff that was dedicated to the work with the needs, because, for example, we do not have experts that are dedicated to working with young people or with needs. So, because in Romania our capacity, staff capacity is not so high, so we cannot have dedicated experts for specific groups. But in this project we had the opportunity to hire additional staff, so they were focused only on the work with the needs. So we had members in the teams from the Ministry of Labor. I mentioned about the social workers, so they have different attributions. Also the Ministry of Education with the school counselor that participated in the identification of the needs. They also provide assessment, guidance, vocational profiling, and our PES expert, of course, was responsible for keeping the contact with the young needs by different means, using phone, emails. They also, of course, registered the young needs in our database and made their profile in the Romanian PES. We profiled them immediately after the registration. Of course, that one of the most important activity was to identify them. So, exchanging all the data that I mentioned before, we are able to have some information about those who are not covered in any of the databases. So, this way we were able to have information, and together with the city halls and the social workers from the city halls, we organized different types of events. We contacted the young needs through door-to-door activities. We organized different meetings with the support of local authorities, usually in the city halls. We invited them to have group discussions in the city halls, but also in the schools. We also organize meeting in the high schools for final year students. This is an usually activity that we organize. We in the past, we organize visits in the schools, in the universities regularly, and we discuss mostly with those who are in the final years of education. And also they organize community visits with by the local intervention teams. We, of course, having the contact with them, discussing with them, we were able to register the young needs and to offer them the different measures that we can provide. Vocational training is one of the measures, but we can also provide them jobs. As I mentioned before, we give to the employers wage subsidies if they hire young needs. So of course, that this way they are able to the teams were able to find a solution to each and every person. Of course, that another important activity of the project was to monitor what it is happening with the young needs that are registered. To see where they are, if they participate in education, because we also had many cases with needs who went back to the educational system in order to either to finalize or to improve their educational level. So monitoring was also very important. Speaking about the results, I mentioned about cooperation protocols. In total, we during the implementation, 679 cooperation protocols were concluded with various stakeholders, including town halls, local governments, other public institutions that have attributions in the field of youth, territorial labor inspectorates, high schools, NGOs, companies, so various stakeholders. We succeeded to identified 207, almost 207,000 inactive NEETs who have been contacted, and we succeeded to register almost around 190,000 young people. These were also profiled. Just to give you some figures about what happened with the young NEETs that were registered. So we had the target group, and then of course we proposed them and we included them in the various measures that are provided by the PES. And you can see here the results. For example, job matching, vocational training, job subsidies. We have also mobility bonuses. I don't want to go now into details, but you can see that every year we succeeded to hire around 30,000 young NEETs. So the successful rate is quite good. So if we count all of these figures in the 4 years of implementation of the project, you can see that almost 120,000 of the young NEETs were employed. So we can speak that we have a good success rate of the project. Speaking about best practices, what we have learned after the implementation of the project is very important, the cooperation between the various stakeholders, so to create support networks at county and local level. Also, this local interventions teams are very helpful because they have you can have an integrated approach about young NEETs according to their specific situation. And also an important fact was to be able to update the database with the young NEETs. Of course, there are challenges because sometimes we lack information. We cannot reach all the young NEETs for various reasons, including means of communications, the lack of means of communication, the lack of internet access, low level of education, or sometimes lack of interest from some young people, because we had examples when our teams went and discussed with them and they said, no, I'm not interested in the PES, so I'm not interested to work. So reasons that were mentioned before, if we look at the social profile of the young NEETs. So this happens, of course, also in our case. So finally, of course, we are aware that not all the needs can be identified, but of course it's very important to reach as much as possible and to register them with the PES. So thank you. This is our experience in the work with the young NEETs. The project has ended, as I mentioned, but we hope that we'll prepare another project next year. So because we have seen that the results are very good, and having such a project is an incentive also to work together. So to bring all the other stakeholders together in order to help us to work with the needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Petru. I think this is an excellent example, again, to show what the role can be of a public employment service, especially if you do not have enough human resources to take care of everything yourself, that you see yourself as a network, and then you work together with other partners as well. In this case, you used the project funds to set up the teams, to do the outreach for you and to bring them together with you. One question I have, you said something about the project results. Also, you said that, I'm not quite sure over what time that was, but you have profiled over 190,000 young people of the 200,000 inactive NEET registered. I mean, that is quite a number. You see also what it does with the NEETs rate in Romania. but do you also know where they are now? Are they in labor? Are they in further training? Do you also monitor that?
Yes, we have monitored what is happening with them, but only during the implementation of the project. So when the project ended, we didn't monitor, but we could do it if we would have enough resources, staff resources, right. I mean, because we can have, and we can check, for example, the database with the work contracts, so we can track them to see if they are still working, or I've told you about the exchange with the Ministry of Education to see if they are going back to the education system. We can also have exchanges with the social assistance institutions to exchange the database, so we can track them. But unfortunately, our capacity, if we look at our staff, is not enough to track, to see exactly what is happening with each and every of them. But this was done during the implementation of the project because we had dedicated teams working with NEETs. But from what you could see, we have the figures with those who participate in different programs organized by the PES. For example, vocational training, job subsidies, mobility bonuses that we give. So we have figures. You see that almost every year we hired more than 30,000 of them. So if we multiply by 4, we had around 120,000 that were somehow successful after they were the target group in the project. So, but unfortunately, we usually keep some records, for example, for vocational training programs, 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months after the program is finished. But afterwards, we do not follow what it is.
One final question, Petru, because you're speaking about a project basis. For me, a project starts with A and ends with Z. What do you do when the project fund ends? I mean, you still have the NEETs in Romania.
Of course, that I presented the protocols were signed, so the cooperation will continue for sure with all the stakeholders. But what I meant when I spoke about the incentive of the partners to continue such a project, giving also the possibility to pay something in addition for them, for example, for those who participate in the partnership, is also an incentive to be, more involved. But anyway, the cooperation will continue for sure. But sometimes it's more attractive when you have a project, when you have specific goals, specific targets to reach, and then activities to follow. This is an incentive, and that's why I mentioned that we intend next year to prepare a continuation of this project, so to be able to extend the activities and to follow what is happening with the NEETs.
Right. All right. Thank you very much. And with that, I would like to conclude this panel. I thank you very much for being here and discussing with us. So just a slight wrap up. What we've learned are the determinants. What do we talk about specifically? Why is somebody in need? Where are the needs? The gender gap we've learned. We heard from the various public employment services in terms of outreach and labor market policy measures. What is working in your countries and what doesn't work and why it doesn't work, the hurdles that you have. I take it that the slides will be posted on the WAPES website online. That means that if you want to know further about a specific project, for example, the PUM-O or the job club, as we heard earlier, then you can take up contact. Right. Okay. Then thank you very much for listening in. Enjoy your coffee break or your tea break, and we'll see you then after the break. Or that's your words, I think. All right.